what if the trust that, holds our entire global economy together is actually just a multi-trillion-dollar illusion? I mean, the invisible thread that lets you buy medication or board a plane or scan a ticket to a stadium, what if it's completely broken?
It's it is a profoundly unsettling thought, honestly, because we operate every single day, right from the moment we wake up, on this massive assumption that the physical things we hold in our hands are, well, exactly what their labels claim them to be.
Right, like you buy a luxury watch and you just assume it was actually milled in that specific factory in Switzerland?
Exactly. Or you scan a QR code to get on a train and you assume the transit authority actually knows it's you holding a valid pass.
Yeah, but looking at the stack of sources we've got on the table for today's deep dive, that certainty is basically vanishing.
Hmm.
We're looking at the strategic writings of tech visionary Saeed Smala, plus some incredibly dense architecture papers, and this really fascinating fact sheet on a ticketing module called AP Billettery.
Yeah, and Smala argues that modernity has completely lost touch with what he calls material truth. And the numbers attached to this loss are just staggering.
I mean, they really are. The International Chamber of Commerce and the Trademark Association, they estimate counterfeiting represents $467 billion globally right now.
Yeah.
And it could hit 2.8 trillion in annual losses.
And see, that 2.8 trillion isn't just a corporate profit problem. It's a sovereign issue. When a state loses visibility into its own physical economy, the consequences just cascade immediately.
Like how so? What does that actually look like on the ground?
Well, you get criminal infiltration, diverted goods, you get fake medications entering pharmacy supply chains,
Hmm.
or counterfeit, substandard machinery causing industrial accidents.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, Smala's core philosophy is that globalization multiplied the physical flow of goods exponentially. We completely failed to build the tools required to verify those goods.
Okay, let's unpack this though. I have to challenge that premise right out of the gate because I look around and planes are still flying, international shipping is happening, stores are stocked.
Right, it looks fine on the surface.
Exactly. It's like a massive game of telephone, sure. But is the system really that fundamentally broken? Or is this just, a tech founder hyping up a theoretical vulnerability to sell some massive civilization level tech solution?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, look at the downstream failures. If a customs agency cannot mathematically prove the origin of a shipping container, their whole risk model is essentially guesswork.
Right, they're just crossing their fingers.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And if a hospital can't guarantee the unbroken chain of custody of a specific vial of vaccine, the healthcare system is actively compromised. Small Law approaches this as a severe human security crisis.
So it's way bigger than just fake designer bags.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
His argument is that material truth, knowing absolutely that a physical object is what it claims to be, is the very first pillar of national sovereignty.
Mm.
Because if you can't prove what's inside your borders, you literally cannot protect your citizens.
Man. So the proposed solution to this massive philosophical and economic problem is this technological framework called Authenticity Plus.
Yes, exactly.
And reading through these architecture papers, the goal is to somehow permanently link the messy physical world to an unalterable digital proof. But how does it actually achieve that without just creating another database that someone can eventually hack?
Well, it builds what the papers call a trust stack. It fuses 4 distinct technological layers so that each layer compensates for the vulnerabilities of the others.
Okay, break those down for me.
First, you have matter, which is the Internet of Things, or IoT. Second is data, handled by the AP cloud. Third is logic, driven by artificial intelligence. And finally, proof, which is secured by blockchain and cryptography.
Let me try to visualize how these layers actually interact. Because listing tech is one thing, but making them work together, that's another.
Go for it.
If the system is like the security protocol at a highly secure casino, the IoT layer, those NRC chips, that's the physical VIP wristband on a guest.
Okay, yeah.
Then the AT cloud is the vault where the profiles are stored. The AI is the eye in the sky monitoring behavior. And the blockchain is the permanent ledger in the back office.
That's a really good way to frame it.
But how are these layers actually talking to each other securely? I mean, if I can just hack the wristband, the permanent ledger is just permanently recording a lie, right?
Right, and that is the critical vulnerability in most supply chain tech, which is exactly why the cryptography in the Authenticity Plus ledger, the AP ledger, is so vital. It uses 512-bit elliptic curve cryptography, or ECC.
Okay, military-grade 512-bit ECC sounds amazing in a marketing brochure, but what does that actually mean for the security of a literal physical object?
Think of ECC like a mathematical trapdoor. It relies on the algebraic structure of elliptic curves. In simple terms, it's incredibly easy for the system to calculate an equation in one direction to create a signature.
But hard to go backward.
Practically impossible. Even with the world's most powerful supercomputers, you can't reverse engineer it to find the private key. 512 bits means the number of combinations is so huge that brute forcing it would take longer than the age of the universe.
Wait, literally longer than the universe has existed.
Right, literally. So when an NFC chip on a product communicates with the system, it uses an AP dual key mechanism. The physical object is generating a cryptographic proof of its presence that is locked behind this impossible trapdoor.
Okay, I follow the math on the cryptography, but I have a major issue with the vault, the AP cloud.
All right, what's the issue?
The entire philosophy Smala is pushing is about restoring sovereignty to nations, right? But if the data from over 180 countries, customs, pharmaceuticals, transit, if that's all sucked up into a centralized cloud, isn't a state just trading one master for another?
You'd think so, yeah.
I mean, how can a nation be sovereign if its data is sitting on some foreign server farm?
Well, that contradiction is exactly what the architecture is designed to avoid. The AP Cloud is not a monolithic server farm owned by one tech giant. It uses protocols called AP Shield and AP Proof to create algorithmic jurisdiction.
Algorithmic jurisdiction.
Yeah. The cloud is deliberately decentralized and physically sharded.
Sharded, meaning like breaking into pieces.
Precisely. The data is mathematically locked within a country's physical borders. The cryptographic keys needed to decrypt a specific nation's data are physically kept on servers or nodes within that territory.
Oh, wow. So they literally can't get it from outside.
Exactly. The mathematics dictate that national data cannot be accessed or moved outside without official algorithmic authorization from that state's local node. It uses math to enforce physical borders.
Okay, so the math actually restricts the geography of the data. That is a massive paradigm shift. But as fascinating as international shipping is, I want to bring this right down to the ground.
Let's do it.
Because the most compelling document in our sources today is the deep dive into AP Billary, their ticketing module. This takes all that abstract cryptography and applies it to something you, the listener, interact with all the time, which is proving you have the right to enter a space.
Yeah, AP Billary is where the genius of this system becomes incredibly tangible. This module is completely dedicated to securing, tracing, and dematerializing tickets.
For, like, stadiums and cinemas.
Stadiums, cinemas, public transport, flights, trains, subways, even rural buses.
Let's walk through the mechanics of this, because the fact sheet makes some pretty bold claims about bypassing traditional infrastructure.
It really does.
Traditionally, if I buy a digital ticket to a concert, the venue has to spend millions installing those specialized optical scanners. You know, those clunky turnstiles that never seem to read your phone screen on the first try?
Right, where you're just aggressively tapping your screen against the glass.
Exactly. But AP Billary claims it doesn't need any of that hardware. So how do you validate a ticket without a scanner?
It uses a direct, bidirectional scan from smartphone to smartphone. When you buy a ticket, the virtual asset just lives on your device.
Okay.
And then the gate agent, or the bus driver, they just use their own standard mobile device to scan yours.
Wait, so the validation isn't happening on some central server at the gate?
No. The initial validation happens locally between the two devices. The inspector's phone requests the cryptographic proof from your phone.
Oh, and my phone provides that 512-bit signature we talked about.
Exactly. The inspector's phone acts as an authorized node in the network, mathematically verifying that signature against the AP ledger. It instantly democratizes the whole infrastructure because any authorized person can authenticate a ticket using equipment they already own.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, though, because the architecture papers detail an offline mode for AP Billary that completely threw me.
The scratch-off mode.
Yes. We are talking about a system boasting neural networks, algorithmic jurisdiction, and asymmetric cryptography. But for areas with no internet connection, like a rural bus route or a music festival where 80,000 people have killed the cell towers, the solution is a physical ticket with a QR code hidden under a scratch-off die.
A literal scratch-off ticket.
Yeah, a lottery-style scratch-off.
Yeah.
You have to admit, that sounds like we just traveled back to 1995.
I know, it sounds so archaic until you really examine the mechanism behind it, because it's actually a masterstroke of inclusive, fail-safe design. Think about the fatal flaw of purely digital systems.
If the power drops, you're toast.
Right. If the network fails, the entire system paralyzes. You've got thousands of people stuck outside a stadium or a bus driver who can't verify a single passenger.
Okay, fair. But how does scratching off a piece of silver die prevent me from just printing a fake scratch-off ticket in my basement? If the driver's scanner is completely offline, how does it know the QR code I just revealed is authentic?
Because of cryptographic pre-generation. When that physical ticket is printed, the system generates a highly complex, unique QR code containing a cryptographic signature.
But how does the offline phone know that?
The AP Cloud securely sends the public keys for that specific batch of tickets to the bus driver's scanning device while it's still connected to the network, say, at the depot in the morning.
Ah, okay. So the device already has the mathematical answer key before it ever loses the internet connection.
Exactly. So when you board the offline bus, you scratch off the die right in front of the driver, you present the pristine QR code, the offline device scans it, and uses the downloaded public key to instantly verify the signature.
It knows mathematically that the ticket was generated by the AP system.
Yep.
And the scratch-off die is the physical proof that the digital code hasn't been copied or used yet. Because if I scanned it at home to make copies, the die would be gone and the driver would just reject it.
Exactly. It uses a single-use physical barrier to protect a permanent digital lock.
That is brilliant, honestly.
It is. And later, when the bus gets back to the depot and reconnects to a network, all those scanned QR codes sync back up to the AP Cloud and the AP Ledger. It permanently burns those tickets on the blockchain so they can never be used again.
Which means a rural, entirely disconnected transit network is just as secure against fraud as a hyper-connected megastadium.
Precisely. It refuses to punish people or regions for lacking connectivity, which is why this aligns so perfectly with the UN's Sustainable Development Goals.
SDGs 9, 11, and 16, right?
Yeah, fostering inclusive infrastructure and sustainable cities. It ensures the tech serves the entire globe, not just wealthy urban centers. Plus, by syncing this offline data later, authorities get incredibly accurate, granular data on crowd flows.
Which is a massive public safety upgrade. They know exactly how many people entered a specific zone during an evacuation.
Absolutely.
Now, let's explore the life cycle of that ticket. Because an entry pass isn't just access, it's an asset. It has value. What happens when I buy an expensive ticket to a game, but I get sick and need to sell it to you?
Right, so the sources detail something called the AP token. It's the mechanism of transfer, acting as a digital certificate of ownership.
Okay, so it tracks the ticket.
Yeah, when you buy a ticket, the system generates this token. It links the unique ID of the object, your identity, the exact timestamp you got it, and the full history of any previous transfers.
So how do I actually give it to you? Because, I mean, if I just email you a PDF, I could email that same PDF to 50 other people.
The AP token requires rigorous double authentication to change hands. If you're selling me your ticket, I first scan the QR code associated with the token. The system checks its validity and confirms your identity.
And then what?
Then, a cryptographic transaction is generated. Both you and I have to digitally sign this transaction using our private keys.
And once we both sign, what happens to the token?
The architecture creates what it calls dynamic traceability. A new unforgeable block is added to the chain of possession on the AP ledger. And crucially, this block is stamped with the UTC timestamp.
Coordinated Universal Time.
Right. Because the ledger is immutable and the time is universally standardized, this digital transfer holds the exact legal weight of an electronic bill of sale. It is legally verifiable by courts, insurers, whoever.
Okay, but let's test this against human malice. We all know the absolute nightmare of ticket scalpers, right?
Oh yeah, the bots buying up everything.
Exactly. Massive black markets where bots buy thousands of tickets and resell them at a 500% markup. Or what if someone physically coerces me into transferring my AP token to them in an alley outside the venue? How does all this beautiful math actually solve the messy reality of the black market?
What's fascinating here is the third layer of Smala's trust stack, the logic layer, powered by artificial intelligence.
Okay, the AI.
The AI is constantly monitoring the entire network's transfer behaviors using specific types of neural networks, CNNs and RNNs.
Wait, hold on. Don't just throw acronyms at me. Convolutional neural networks and recurrent neural networks, they sound impressive, but why does a supercomputing AI care about a guy scalping a concert ticket?
Because they care about patterns of reality. CNNs, or convolutional neural networks, are exceptional at analyzing spatial data. They map the physical locations, like IP addresses and GPS pings, of where these transfers are happening.
Okay, so CNNs mapped the space.
Right. And RNNs, recurrent neural networks, are designed to process sequential data over time. They track the speed and the frequency of the transfers.
So they are tracking the space and the time of the ticket.
Exactly. So let's say a ticket for a match in Paris is bought digitally. 2 minutes later, that same AP token is transferred to a new account from an IP address in Tokyo.
The CNN flags the impossible spatial jump.
Boom, exactly. Simultaneously, if a bot account buys a ticket and transfers it 50 times in 1 hour to obscure its origin, the RNN flags the impossible time sequence.
So the AI instantly recognizes that these behaviors just defy logical physics and normal commerce.
Yes, it flags the anomaly and freezes the asset. The system basically makes the ticket an intelligent actor in its own life cycle.
Wow, it knows its own history, it knows the laws of physics, and it actively reports behaviors that break those rules. The ticket literally kills its own black market.
Yes, the underlying philosophy is that you cannot lie to the math, and the math cannot ignore the physical reality.
I mean, we have covered incredible ground today. We started with Saeed Smalah's diagnosis of this $2.8 trillion crisis. You know, the fact that states and individuals are flying blind because we lost the tools to verify physical goods.
And we examine the architecture of Authenticity Plus, exploring how those IoT sensors, the sovereign AP cloud, the AI anomaly detection, and the AP ledger combine to create an unbroken trust stack.
And we really zeroed in on how that massive architecture funnels down into AP bulletry, seeing how a system protected by 512-bit encryption utilizes an analog scratch-off die to ensure a rural bus rider offline has the exact same security as a VIP at a hyper-connected stadium.
It's just brilliant design.
And how neural networks track the space and time of a ticket to systematically dismantle scalping. So for you, the listener, the next time you buy a concert ticket or board a city bus, take a moment to consider the invisible chain of data, or the terrifying lack of it, that's guaranteeing the reality of what you're holding in your hand.
And consider this final thought as we look toward a future shaped by technologies like deep authenticity. If this system succeeds, we enter a world where every single physical object of value, from a pharmaceutical to a train ticket, has a permanent, unalterable digital memory.
Right.
So in an economy of absolute traceability and mathematical certainty, do we truly own our belongings anymore? Or are we simply temporary, recorded custodians, occupying a brief timestamp inside the eternal digital life cycle of the object?
Man, that is a staggering paradigm shift to consider. If the multi-trillion-dollar illusion of trust is replaced by cold, hard mathematical truth, our entire relationship to the physical world fundamentally changes. Thanks for joining us as we explored the end of the illusion.